Damos hoy entrada a otro elemento clave.
Today we are going to introduce another key element of economics, and that is the concept of time. Dear students, all human action takes place in time.
Toda acción humana siempre
All human action takes time.
tiempo. Si hay algo importante
If there is one important aspect of the view of economics I am presenting to you, it is that it is a subjectivist view of economics. As I have said, ends are subjective and are not given. The subject determines them. The same is true of the means. The concept of scarcity is also subjective. Well, in economics, the concept of time is a subjective concept.
Es la concepción del tiempo subjetivo. ¿Qué significa esto? Significa que el tiempo.
What does this mean? It means that time, as we are referring to it, is time as the subject feels and experiences it in the context of each action.
En el contexto de cada acción. Es decir, no nos estamos refiriendo.
In other words, we are not referring to objective time, but to the feeling we have that time is passing as we are imagining and completing the different stages of each action process.
Imaginando y culminando las diferentes etapas de cada proceso de acción. Es la concepción que vamos a llamar subjetivista.
We will call this the subjectivist view of time, in the sense that the subject feels the passage of time precisely because he or she acts and completes stages. So we discover and create ends and seek out means to accomplish them. And we combine everything into a cocktail of stages. And as we complete these stages, we sense the passage of time.
Es la acción lo que precisamente.
In the subjectivist view of time, it is action itself that gives us the sense that time flows.
Subjetivista del tiempo. Y así se puede dar la paradoja.
Thus, sometimes the paradox arises that in a period that is objectively, chronologically very short, we pack in a lot of life. We experience the culmination of many stages. Napoleon lived a relatively short life. He died at the age of 51, and yet he declared, "What a saga my life has been. So many experiences, battles, etc." In contrast, imagine a different person, maybe an older person who has lived 90 years, an entire life, in the country, doing the same things over and over again. In the subjectivist view of time, that person has lived less, even though he or she is older.
Lo que le estoy diciendo es que conforme más actuamos,
what I am saying is that the more we act, the more responsibilities we have, the more complications we are involved in, the faster we feel time is passing. Furthermore, this is a constant in human life.
Recordemos nuestra infancia.
Let us remember our childhood. Did it not seem as if time stood still? Our first memories, maybe from when we were 3, 4, or 5 years old, or going to school, are from a period when time seemed to stand still. And yet those were very few years. As we mature and acquire responsibilities, start a family, engage in entrepreneurial projects, time speeds up. Older people tell us that time passes faster and faster for them. That is a rough way of explaining this truth I am talking about. In subjective terms, the passage of subjective time is perceived as we act. The more actions we are involved in, the more time we feel is passing.
Más tiempo sentimos que está transcurriendo. Les voy a dar una lección importantísima.
Listen, I'm going to teach you a very important lesson. Our brains have been warped for years due to the education we received in school. We have only been taught, and we are only used to, the concept of objective time, and not that of subjective time. Objective time is also known as chronological time, chronos. Objective or chronological time is simply an analogy for the physical reality of movement. You know there are two types of watches, right? Digital watches are called digital because they display the time in digits. However, most of us have an analog watch, like mine for instance. Why are they called analog watches? Where is the analogy in an analog watch?
es exactamente la idea que les acabo de decir.
It
Los
lies
relojes
precisely in
analógicos,
the idea I have just expressed.
analogía está.
The
La
analogy
analogía
is as
está.
follows.
El transcurso del
Analog
tiempo
watches
lo
reflect the
reflejan
passage of
como una
time as an
analogía del
analogy for movement.
movimiento. Podíamos, por ejemplo, un reloj
For
analógico que
example,
podemos
we could
concebir es
conceive
poner
of
una
an
regla.
analog watch that could be
Ponemos aquí una
represented as a
regla
ruler. So we could
con un
draw a
cursor,
ruler,
que es este,
and there would be a cursor here.
cada 5
Every
minutos se
5 minutes,
mueve.
the cursor would move,
y después de una hora el
and at
cursor
the end of an hour,
ha
the
llegado
cursor
hasta
would
aquí.
be here.
Claro, si tuviéramos este reloj
Of course, if
analógico
we all
todos
had a
imagínense
watch
una
like
regla,
this
se
ruler,
ven
it would be
comodísimos. Yo le
extremely
metería en el ojo.
awkward. We would be poking each other's eyes out.
Entonces se nos ocurrió
So it
coger
occurred to
una
us to
esfera
use a circular face,
más
which is
cómodo
much more comfortable,
para
to express
recoger
that
esa
analogy
analogía
between
del
movement
transcurso
and
del
the
tiempo,
passage of time in its physical,
en
objective
su
sense.
sentido físico y objetivo. Pero el mundo de la física
However, the
y de la
world of
ciencia
physics
natural
and the
nada tiene
natural
que ver con el mundo
sciences
de la
bears
acción
no
humana.
relation to the world of human action.
En el mundo de la física,
In the world of physics, time
el
is a
tiempo
dimension,
es una dimensión,
the fourth
la cuarta
dimension,
dimensión, que no es una analogía
which is simply
del
an
movimiento.
analogy for movement.
Imagínense ustedes que estamos en el polo norte,
Imagine we're at the North Pole on any day between the
cualquiera de los
21st
días
of
que
March
van
and the 21st of
desde el
September.
21 de marzo hasta el 21 de septiembre. Ya saben ustedes que es continuamente de
As
día.
you know, during that
Estamos en el polo
period,
norte.
the sun is constantly visible. We are at the North Pole.
Bueno, pues en el polo norte,
Well, at
ustedes
the
ven
North
el
Pole,
sol,
you can see the sun, and the
el
sun
sol se va
moves.
moviendo, transcurrido una hora,
After 1
una
hour,
hora,
another
una
hour,
hora,
another
fuera
hour,
una inmensa
as if it were
esfera.
marking the hours on an enormous clock face.
hasta que vuelve al lugar
The
donde
sun
estaba.
moves until it returns to its
decir, un
original
inmenso
position.
reloj.
The sun is like a hand on a huge watch.
Vuelve a donde
The sun returns to where it was before.
el tiempo es
Time is an
analogía
analogy for movement.
del movimiento. Y el
And the
futuro,
future,
en
in
la
the objective
concepción
physical view
objetiva
of
y
time,
física del tiempo,
is already there.
está ahí.
It
Solo
merely has
falta
to
que venga.
arrive.
El futuro, si nosotros
If we are
estamos aquí,
here on this analog watch,
en este reloj analógico, el futuro dentro de una hora ya está.
in an
Es
hour,
cuando
the
el
future will
cursor
have
esté aquí.
arrived. It will be
Solo
when the
falta que se
cursor
mueva
is
de aquí
here. The
hasta
cursor
aquí,
must
pero ya
simply
está
move
dado.
from here to here. But the
Igual.
future is already given.
Que en el polo norte,
Just as at the North Pole, in
Dentro de
24 hours,
24
the sun
horas,
will have returned to
el
what
sol
was
estará
today its
exactamente
starting point.
desde donde hoy ha partido. El futuro es
The future is an
Una
extension of the present in terms of physical
prolongación
movement,
en términos de
and in a
movimiento
sense the
físico
future
del
is
presente.
already
En
given.
cierto sentido
It
ya
is
está
there.
dado,
It
está
merely
ahí,
has to
solo
arrive at
falta
today.
que llegue a hoy. Es por tanto un porvenir.
Therefore, the future is
Venir
to come.
significa moverse
To
hacia
come
uno.
means to move toward one. The future
futuro es un
is to
porvenir.
come.
Estoy explicando todas estas realidades
I am
porque,
explaining
por
all of
contraste,
these
vamos a
truths
ver
because in
que es
contrast, we are
radicalmente
going to see that
distinto
the
al concepto
subjectivist
subjetivo
view
del
of
tiempo. Ahora
time
vamos a
is
explicar que
radically
el futuro
different,
en el tiempo
kairos.
subjetivo de la acción humana
We
no
are
es un
going to see
porvenir.
that the future in the subjective time of human action
Pero no
is
adelantemos
not to
acontecimientos.
come, it is to be
Lo que claro es
made.
que declara
But let us
el
not get ahead of
porvenir
ourselves. Let
respecto
us
de
just
por
take
hacer.
note of the contrast
Pero
between
sigamos
to
en el
come
mundo
and
del
to be
cronos
made.
objetivo de los
For now,
físicos
we
y de
will
la
stay
ciencia
in
de
the
la
world
naturaleza,
of
que
the
nada tiene que
objective
ver
chronos
con el
of
mundo
physicists and the
de
natural
la economía y
sciences,
de la
which
acción
bears
humana,
no relation to the world of
protagonizado por seres
economics and
humanos.
human action, in which the leading roles are played by human beings.
Hombre, más que un porvenir, podríamos decir que es un
Actually,
porvolver.
rather than to come,
Por lo
we
menos
could
desde
say the
la
future is to
física de
return,
Einstein.
at least from the perspective of Einstein's physics.
Que descubre que el espacio no
Einstein
es recto.
discovered that space is not
sino
straight
curvo.
but curved, and a particle
Si hay una
traveling at the
partícula a
speed
velocidad
of
de la luz
light
por el
through the
universo,
universe
y después
after
de
X
miles de
millions of
años
years
vuelve.
returns.
Es
The
un
future
porvolver.
is to return.
Y de hecho está
And in fact, this
muy
is very
bien
well illustrated by the
ilustrado
enormous
por el
astronomical
superreloj
clock provided by the
astronómico que es
sun
el
at the
Sol en el
North
Polo
Pole,
Norte,
or
o
at
en
the
el
South
Polo
Pole,
Sur, si es que
between the 21st of September and the 21st of
desde
March.
septiembre pasado hasta el 21 de marzo. Somos capaces, cogiendo un anuario,
If we
de
pick up an
predecir a qué hora va a
almanac, we
salir
can
el sol
predict
con
the
una
time of the
diferencia de
sunrise to
100
within
segundos.
fractions of a second.
Y ese futuro está dado
That future
porque el
is
sol sale
given
mañana
because
a
the
la
sun will
hora
rise tomorrow at the
prevista.
predicted time.